Remember the Ellen Show, dude? Remember Gangnam Style? Remember the Ice Bucket Challenge? Remember the Mannequin Challenge? Remember when everyone was watching Harry Potter and the Avengers movies and the Lord of the Rings movies? Remember how good life...
Yo! Twin, what are you doing?
Where am I?
What are these? Dude, wake up, you gotta pay taxes.
Monoculture is a term used to describe the leading or dominant culture in the set of multiple cultures. And up until like 10 years ago, the monoculture was the way most people took in media because everyone was watching the same news, watching the same shows on TV, and watching the same YouTube videos. Anything you can think of that transcended gender, age, race can be considered a part of that monoculture. Pokemon Go was part of the monoculture. When that apparently kid came onto Ellen, that was a monoculture. Gangnam Style was monoculture. Here's me dancing to Gangnam Style in 2012 in the Middle East. This shit was worldwide, global. I grew up when the monoculture was still the predominant culture, and it was one of the coolest experiences witnessing who got slimed on the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, or someone who had a really crazy Grammy speech, and talking about it with both your teachers and your classmates the next day. But now no one watches award shows anymore. No one watches Late Night with Jimmy Fallon like that. What happened? What I like to call modern culture took over. See, everyone now has access to a camera and a microphone, like this guy. And now attention is decentralized more than it has ever been in recorded history. You can have artists do stadium and arena tours and you don't even know one of their songs. What the hell is a cat's eye? Sub-communities are the new communities and niche is in. The sole focus isn't on TV anymore. It's on influencers and streamers. Not to say that those prior media giants don't still exist, they just have a much smaller chunk of the pie now. And with that, monoculture moments, they don't happen as much anymore. The last time we had a monoculture moment was 6, 7, and that was so few and far between. I can't even remember the last one before that. Is this better for us? I mean, more people have a voice, but do we need more people to have a voice? Should you have a license to have a microphone? I know it sounds pretty crazy to ask, but when we live in a society where kids are growing up watching kick streamers drive over people with their cars, you really gotta think, okay, have we lost the plot? I mean, I remember the bar of what was acceptable was so astronomically high when I was a kid. I had a friend in middle school who wasn't allowed to watch Pokemon because his aunt saw a WhatsApp video of someone reversing the Pokemon intro song, gotta catch 'em all. And apparently when you reverse it, it sounds like, oh, I will say, or some bullshit like that. But nowadays we got clear examples of like horrible people out there. So it's fair to say that that bar has dropped. But in this video, I want to put the monoculture and the modern culture up against each other to see if it's just the nostalgia glasses talking or if we really were better when everyone was consuming the same thing.
Round 1.
To start off the conversation, I think it's really important to talk about women. No, please come back. Please. No, I don't mean it like that. I know this is one of those like classic misogynist people mics, but bro, the background does not look like this or that. So hear me out, please. Women and the role they play in media has been a subject of heated discussion for God knows how long. And before I start this conversation, I think it's important to mention that monoculture has existed since there was the newspaper boy in the middle of the town square yelling out the news. So we're talking about the way we were consuming media from the beginning of media pretty much to where we are now. And then modern culture, it's only had like 10 years to breathe. So it's not a true apples to apples comparison. That being said, let's take a look at how the monoculture used to treat women. Now, trigger warning before we go ahead, I'm going to be discussing a lot of weirdo behavior in the next couple of minutes. And this shit is going to be very hard to stomach, even for me as a guy. The monoculture was horrible for women, as the monoculture reflected culture from 10, 20, 30, 50 years ago, where the patriarchy was really popping off. And I think there's one person who can exemplify the horrors of the monoculture better than anyone. Britney Spears.
It's Britney, bitch.
We all know how the Britney Spears' story unfolded today, where this poor girl was being taken advantage of left, right, and center in ways that I bet you we fully don't even understand yet. But when you take a look back on Britney Spears' stardom, there is a really gross hypersexualization of her as a kid that I think represents the monoculture's feelings towards women in general. Take a look at this, bro.
You have the most adorable, pretty eyes. You have a boyfriend?
No, sir.
How about me?
At the tender age of 10, Britney was already using her budding sexuality to attract an audience.
That's disgusting. And this is what they were saying on live TV. The monoculture is a great way to understand the headspace of everyone in their modern culture really well, because this was the predominant attitude a lot of people had, enough so that they could publicly state how they found a 10-year-old sexy. By the way, I had to do a lot of smart Googling so that I don't have to look up Britney Spears sexy 10-year-old commentary in my Google search history. Dude, it felt like walking through a minefield. Britney Spears was one example of this, but women have been the subject of over-sexualization for God knows how long. I mean, how many times have we heard of a director or a producer putting in their niche sexual fetish into general media, sometimes kids media, playing it off as some fun, quirky gag? Yes, I'm talking about you, Dan Schneider. But on the positive side though, as the patriarchy started degrading and women had more of an equitable say in how they want to be portrayed in media, things did get better. Women weren't solely sexual objects, they were people too? What the heck? I think now we are lucky enough to see women portrayed in media in the most badass manner. And it's because of the unionizing of women and feminism that the monoculture has gotten to this spot where women are represented so much better. And their sexuality can still be a marketing tactic, but I think it's fair to say that a woman's sexual being is just a part of who she is, not the full pie, and what was the monoculture. And unfortunately, people in the monoculture would still heavily scrutinize women for the smallest of things. A girl looks a bit flirtatious or wears an outfit that's a little bit too revealing, then next thing you know, she's a hoe, she's a slut, she's basically a porn star. And I think that's fucked up, because now they're actually doing porn. To bring this conversation to modern culture with kick streamers and influencers, it feels like we've taken all the baby steps of progressiveness towards women in media and monoculture, threw them out, brought back the misogynistic stuff, and gave it steroids. Britney Spears was my example for the monoculture, so for modern culture, I'm gonna talk about this girl named Piper Raquel. Piper Raquel is a girl who just turned 18. She was a little kid who would post silly little TikToks of, and you know how I found out about her existence? It's because people were talking about how she made $1 million in 2 hours on OnlyFans. They were hyping up her OnlyFans drop as if it was New Year's. Even she was a part of this. She would do a countdown on her social media. 7 days left, 6 days left, till what, you turn legal and people can faps you? And if you were one of the guys who was in her comment sections foaming out your mouth for this girl to turn 18 and you bought it within the fucking 2 hours where she was legal, you deserve the chair, bro. Unfortunately though, Piper is not an exception. She seems to just be a part of this formula of an innocent girl who posted her life in her teens, who then had a lot of people prey on her, both from the male side of her audience and the older established women who are in the porn industry and OnlyFans industry, and both ends start squeezing these women into making it seem like the only logical next step with all this clout that they have is to strip naked. This Gooner pipeline has happened to more girls than I can even think of. And these algorithms know this, and they promote it. Kick and Twitch streamers always collab with OF girls. Listen, I'm no stranger to how Smosh used to do it back in the day where they had boobs in the thumbnail. My 12-year-old ass was clicking on that, but it feels a bit more pervasive when these girls are acting hyper-sexualized and then they show up on these Kick and Twitch streams just to plug their OnlyFans to a bunch of young little kids. And it's not just on Kick and Twitch. When you go onto Instagram or TikTok as a guy, and listen, I know I'm not the only guy who's like this because I've talked about this to more guys than I can count, but you can literally look up anything in the search bar and it's gonna come out as a thirst trap. I tried this out with my girlfriend. We both typed in like pear or something and she got pear recipes while I got girls who were shaped like pears. This is not fair. I think algorithms know when it's a guy looking at the phone and they feed them goon slop. I don't think it's healthy for a 12 or 13-year-old boy to think that he has access to every woman's body within the span of 3 clicks on their phone. And I don't think it's good for young women who might be in a financial crisis to see this supposedly get-rich-quick scheme and to fall into that. That's how you get people who get trapped into the craziness of that industry. So although both the monoculture and modern culture have been very horrible towards women, I think it's fair to say that the monoculture kind of wins here because it was getting better to an extent, and we didn't put girls through a pipeline to start sucking dick on camera. So although it's closer than it should be, I'm gonna give this to the monoculture. What a lighthearted way to start this video, guys.
Round 2. Fight!
Hi, this is me from the future. 90% of you aren't subscribed yet, apparently. What the fuck, bro? I thought you were enjoying this video. If you are, please do consider liking, subscribing, and commenting what you think of the monoculture versus the modern culture. because it really does help me in the algorithm. Now, back to the video. Now, we should talk about moments. I know the monoculture was very popular for its big moments. Some of them that I can think of off the top of my head were when Ellen took that crazy selfie at the Oscars, or again, Pokemon Go, or when everyone went into theaters for big movies like Infinity War, Endgame, Spider-Man No Way Home. I mean, I remember personally when that last movie came out, I drove all the way back to my hometown to watch it day one with my friends, and I was so worried about spoilers because some theaters globally have already played the movie, and we went to a pretty late screening, so I was really not trying to hear any spoilers. And oh my god, did it pay off, because what I'm telling you, when Andrew Garfield stepped out through that portal into that living room, I saw the theater erupt in ways that still sends chills down my spine to this day. The modern culture still has big moments, but they're not huge spectacles like what we used to have. I think maybe even a perfect example of this was Barbenheimer, where people were excited to both watch Oppenheimer and Barbie. That's literally a fragment in this cultural moment that we have, where people are watching two big movies that are clearly very distinct. And I know the whole meme was that, oh, I'm going to watch both those movies in the same day. But I'd wonder, out of the Venn diagram of people who watched Barbie and Oppenheimer, how many of them really watched both? I mean, me personally, I still have yet to watch Oppenheimer. No, please don't kill me. But other moments too, like Brat Summer and maybe the Marty Supreme marketing run. Those were all big moments, but they felt fractured, as in people had to be of a certain demographic to really like those. But you know what? It sounds like a bad thing, but I think it's actually a really good thing. And to illustrate that, I want to go back to the monoculture and a very interesting memory that I have. So I remember when Endgame came out, and then I had a substitute teacher, and this guy, I could just tell I didn't like him for whatever reason. You ever have that with people where you're like, haven't given me a reason to be pissed off at you, but I still have one in my head? That was how I felt with this guy. And funny enough, I was valid to feel that way about him, because he said that he watched Endgame the day before and that he really enjoyed it. Why is that a problem? Because then what proceeded to fall out of his mouth was, yeah, that was my first Marvel film that I watched. Excuse me, dude? You don't deserve to watch Endgame. You're telling me there was a decade plus of context that you were void of understanding, that you chose not to watch before watching one of the biggest moments in cinema? What type of bandwagoning bullshit is this? And I think that was a big part of what the monoculture created, is bandwagons, because people just didn't want to miss out on the moment, even if they were half-assedly invested into it. I'm hating on this substitute teacher too much, because if you were in Toronto in 2019, suddenly everyone and their mom, me included, became Raptors fans. I remember seeing the Raptors win the Eastern Conference Championship, and everyone was talking about, oh my god, the Raptors are going to take it home, the Raptors are going to take it home. That Kawhi hit that crazy shot, and now, oh my god, why am I looking up Siakam jerseys? I did not know who this guy was 6 months ago. And I realized in that moment, holy shit, I'm like homeboy over there. And I bet that logic of not wanting to miss out on what seems like a once in a lifetime opportunity makes it so that people join the monoculture moments without really giving a shit about them. Like Pokemon Go, my dad was playing Pokemon Go. He did not give a fuck about Pokemon. Even for me, when the Raptors won, like, I was excited because everyone else was excited. I was a viewer, but it wasn't like this had like a profound impact on me. I forgot about the Raptors the next season. Also, a big part of the monoculture with these moments is that they're like really celebrity focused for some reason. Like, okay, it's cool and funny that Kanye took the mic from Taylor Swift. I have a job. What do I care? Or like, okay, cool, Ellen took a selfie with a bunch of celebrities. My mom takes selfies with me all the time, bitch. And so now we look at the modern culture where we have more events and moments, but they're much smaller. And maybe that's a good thing, because the people who give enough of a shit to pay attention are actually wanting to be there. It's a classic example of breadth versus depth. When this collective consciousness is deeper than just the surface level, people can reference things that are deeper cuts within that fandom or that community, and you kind of feel cool for understanding. I mean, I remember when I was a part of the group of people that was hate watching the last season of Stranger Things, and we all fell in this hysteria of, oh my god, is that really it? No, there has to be an episode 9. It was fun because it was a niche group of people who understood how badly they were fucking up the show. Now, Stranger Things didn't even get close to the heights of like a Gangnam Style or a Party Rock Anthem or a Mannequin Challenge or Ice Bucket Challenge. But for me, and I don't think this is recency bias talking, those moments that were smaller in modern culture have stuck with me way more, because the connection I had with people, although it was less people, it was way deeper. So guys, I think the modern culture is taking this one home. But there's a caveat. All that I just said, I think there's an important warning that I should put in here where you can be a bit too obsessed with anything. I think over COVID, a lot of people were chronically online and that never stopped, because in any niche community that you can be in, if you go into like the Reddit forums, you'll find the same username under every single post, and then you'll come to realize, oh my God, this person's entire life is this. They're on the bottom of the iceberg, and that can be very unhealthy. I mean, I'm a big fan of Star Wars. I hate the community because there's a whole marketplace on YouTube of people just shitting on Star Wars. Sure, they fucked up the series, but like, bro, is it really that important? Go outside. Honestly, any forum for any subject can be the craziest thing ever, because you get to some people's day to day and realize, holy shit, some people are just so far gone. So Clavicular got frame-mogged by the ASU frat owner.
Final round. Fight!
I'm gonna make the conversation a bit serious again, talking about weirdos. It seems that in any type of industry, horrible people, as soon as they find a little bit of leverage, they can use that and abuse that to their advantage. It's no crazy revelation that during the monoculture days, there was a lot of gatekeepers and execs and producers who held the doors and only let what they seemed fit open. Now, this was in hopes of letting actually good content and talent shine and to not have as much bullshit hit the airwaves. But unfortunately, people abuse these positions time and time again. I mean, you were around during the Me Too movement, right? I'm thinking Dan Schneider, Harvey Weinstein, Diddy. These are just very surface level examples. It's a trope where people say, oh, don't go sell your soul in Hollywood, or oh, you don't want to join the Illuminati. They deadass made a whole movie about super powerful Illuminati-esque people using their power and influence to have a lot of sex. And unfortunately, the only thing that they got wrong in Eyes Wide Shut is that they were fucking adults. Shouldn't be seeing that anymore, right? Where the predominance of gatekeepers is so unimportant now. Anyone can have a platform, and there really isn't this giant monolith of people who can take advantage of you because you can do your own thing, right? Even with the fraction of clout that modern influencers have in comparison to the monoculture, the modern culture still finds a way to abuse that. Kick streamers and Twitch streamers, specifically kick streamers, have gone about deriving clout in the most horrible ways possible. I'm talking about influencers will literally film themselves assaulting people in public, film themselves running over people with their car, film themselves committing hate crimes in other countries. I mean, bro, I grew up with Minecraft YouTube. Why aren't half of those people around anymore? It's because they were caught talking to kids. To give the point to any one of these guys, it feels like I'm really comparing trash to garbage, but I think if I were to differentiate them, I would say this. In monoculture, we were taking baby steps, but we were still taking those baby steps into improving the atmosphere with people speaking up and organizing against gatekeepers so that they could have a collective unified voice. And because these gatekeepers were still representing production studios and big departments that were corporations, there were laws in place, because again, the monoculture was around for much longer, that protected talent and acts. And it felt like there was way more legislation in place that still could get circumvented because the ruling class kind of doesn't apply rules to themselves. At least there was an opportunity though for perpetrators of disgusting acts to face some type of recourse and punishment for their actions. But because streaming and influencing and all that is so new and fresh, and governments around the world are more inept than they've ever been, it feels like we are a lifetime away from getting any type of legislation that will stop influencers, or at least discourage them from doing any crazy batshit psychotic behavior for clout online. It's unfortunate that just societal pressure doesn't do that for them, but this is the world we live in. So if I'm gonna give the point to trash or garbage, I'll give it to the monoculture, because at least there was some semblance of change. With all that being said, if you tally up the points, I think we have a clear win.
Listen, man. Listen, Ali. I'm gonna let you finish, but YouTube had one of the greatest runs of all time.
Okay, Ali West, I kind of guess you're right. See, when writing the script, I realized I could talk ad nauseum about the differences and similarities between the monoculture and the modern culture that we have. And these 3 points that I brought up to you are like the first 3 points that I thought of in general, and they aren't a holistic view of this entire subject. So I guess those nostalgia glasses that I had kind of made me look at the monoculture in a much more favorable lens, because the modern culture does have its benefits. I mean, me being able to talk to you and you watching this video for however long that you're watching it could have only happened with the modern culture that we have. So I guess I gotta pass the question off to you. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below what I didn't consider between the monoculture versus the modern culture, and maybe we can all collectively come to some type of answer. Anyways, man, this has been another Ali video. Thank you very much for the love on all the last videos. I have 2 songs out and another song coming out this month right now. Please go check those out. And yeah, new video next week. Bye-bye.